Peace, friends. What's up? Welcome back. We are in the fifth house. Let's go ahead and dig in. This is actually going to be one of my favorite ones to talk about. I have a lot of fifth house energy. My moon is actually in the fifth house, and the fifth house has a lot to do with children and creativity and the energy to create. So I'm super excited to talk to you guys about this. It's a house that I have a lot of passion for. So the fifth house. We are at number 5, and number 5 in numerology is in alignment with the complete being or the whole being. If we go back to the zodiac conversation, we talk about Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and then Leo. By the time we get to Leo, we have actually reached the height of the personal journey. By the time we're in Leo season, it's the height of the sun, and the sun is going to start now going actually back the other way, right? It happens around winter or summer solstice, right? The sun starts to shift back already back towards the winter solstice. And so by the time we get to the fifth house, we actually have created the full human or the full being in terms of the inner experience, right? We've set our foundation as an individual one being. We've opened that one being up and brought in a second person and recreated, or a second energy and recreated number 2. We then took what we learned and what we created, the energy of creation, and spread it out to the world in the third house. We've communicated who we are and what we think and what we've learned and the lessons of our life. Then we come into the fourth house, and we actually start to protect and take care of everything we've built around us, right? Like we're these individual persons that have created our foundations and our home, and now we have a community, and now it's in time for us to invest in taking care of that community and creating a really solid structure there. By the time we get to the fifth house, we are in the sign of Leo, and like I said, this is the time when the sun is getting ready to shift back the other way. So this is the height of the human, of the creation of the being, of the energetic soul imprint. And when we look at the 5-pointed star, actually I'm going to show you guys something that is kind of hidden knowledge, but is also pretty basic as well. Allah, the word Allah, actually can also stand for this. This is the 5 arm. So it's arm, leg, arm, and head. This is the 5-pointed star. This is the completed human. This is the number 5. This is the fifth house. This is Leo. This is the whole human ready to shine their light and present their whole selves to the world. So we actually have arm, leg, arm, and head. And so Allah or the God body is oftentimes associated to the 5-pointed star, to Leo, to the sun, to the energy of it's time for me to show you who I am, what I'm made of, and what I'm here to do, what I got to show. And that is really the energy of the fifth house, is the energy of creation, of the ability that we have to create, the ability that we have to manifest with our experiences, with our lessons, with our community, with our family, with whatever resources we have around us. The fifth house is about taking those resources together and creating something with it. It can be just a creation, an artistic creation. It could be a physical creation where you actually make something, a house or build something. But it also can be the creation of children. And so the fifth house is associated to children. It is associated to our creative need, the desire, the need that we have within us to create something, right? Whatever your personal, thing is, it's what it is. But the fifth house is going to help you tune into the different planets and the zodiacs that will be there. It's going to help you tune into what you feel you need to create, the power and the passion within that you have to get out into the world. The fifth house is associated to the spine, the heart, and the upper back. And I mean, we've talked, you kind of know people say, well, if you got a spine, stand up for yourself, or do you have the heart for it? Do you have the heart to be able to do something big and courageous? This is the energy of Leo and of the full spiritual being, of the full, we'll say spiritual being. Herbs, of course, that we're going to talk about are going to be supporting the heart, the spine, the nervous system, the blood, all of those things. All right, so the fifth house is associated to not only creativity, but it's also associated to fertility. So not only creating because we have the ability to create a new life and new children and to reproduce our genetic information to something else, but the ability to do that is in our fertile, or is in our fertility, right? Some of us get to certain years and we decide we want to have children and we struggle to do it, right? We don't have the appropriate health, body health, or energetic health, or frequency or alignment to be able to actually do it. And so the fifth house is in a relation to fertility, and the ability to actually put out a healthy egg and sperm and create a new being. And so herbs that are also promote and stimulate fertility would be a part of this house as well. The fifth house is in alignment with even romance, and what makes us feel good is really what the fifth house is all about. Some people don't always like being around children, but in a general sense, people love babies. They love children. They love having them around. Kids bring joy and happiness and a new level of excitement and something that adults just don't have. Adults don't have that natural joy that children have. And that's the fifth house. It's about what makes us feel joyful and what makes us feel pleasure and passion and excited. It's about excitement, actually. Romance can be pretty exciting as well, right? When you fall in love, although we want to rise in love, we don't want to necessarily fall down in love. But when we find ourselves in love with someone, that romance and that courting and the getting to know each other and the first physical stimulation of touching two people or a new touch, that's exciting. And what it has the potential to create on the other side through sex is a new life, is the biggest creation that we know here, which is a baby, is a new life cycle. This is the house of self-realization, okay? And so in reality, we want to wait really until we get to, I didn't write fifth house here on the chart. The fifth house is where it's just a self-realization. This is the time where we feel like we are a matured being. If we go to the garden, by the time we get to the Leo season, the season of Leo, we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. We're feeling like, you know what, I really know how to do life now. And in reality, we want to consider waiting until we reach that fifth house full self or self-realization in order to even have children, in order to reproduce. Because it's by the time that we reach the fifth house that we are come to an awareness of who we truly are, what we're here to do, and we're ready to share it out with the world. If you wait until that point before you actually have children, which is what the cycle is attempting to kind of lead us into, the circle of life is attempting to lead us into waiting until we have self-realization to actually reproduce. The experience for the child, the joyful experience of the child is a bit easier to be seen because the adult is not fighting, is not trying to heal fourth house trauma, is not trying to figure out how to communicate who they are to the world, is not trying to create a stable foundation so that they can actually afford to take care of the next generation. If we wait until we get to the fifth house and we have this full being realization, this God realization of ourselves, and not necessarily that we are not the God, not a God complex. There's some people who get God complexes and think they are God. Not that level, but this realization of I am a whole being. I have had experiences and lessons that matter, that are valuable, and because of that, I am confident enough in my life to express that out to the world, to have this God-like confidence in yourself, to align with the perfection of the creation, to align with that power of creation, to know that I am created perfectly as who I am, and I'm intended to be here as I am and to express it. That's real self-realization, and that's what we find in the fifth house. This is the power of the whole human, of what makes us feel good and alive. And when we take that healthy person and then use that person to create, our creations are stronger. They are built in wisdom and in our true self. So they're less draining. They're not going to take as much energy from us. We'll just be in a better position to actually offer our energy to whatever we create. If that is a project, an artistic, creation, children, a family, whatever. Our hobbies are found in the 5th house, including our sexual desire is found here. Sexual, what do they call it? Like addictions to sex would be found in the 5th house, because that's where people are having too much pleasure. They're finding too much pleasure, an actual addiction to it. That would be in the 5th house. What we're talking about in the 5th house too, as we mentioned throughout the other houses, is whatever zodiac sign and planets or luminaries you find in each one of these houses is going to talk about how the house actually reflects in the world or in your life. And so for me, I have my moon. My moon is in Aquarius and it's in the 5th house. And so I have this very natural need to create for the whole of humanity. Aquarius is the humanitarian energy of life, and it's the energy of the bird's eye perspective, right? So Aquarius is flying over the earth and is realizing, hey guys, everything is one. So there's no reason for me to just treat one part of the one differently than the other part of the one. Well, my deep inner emotional needs, my moon sign, right? The deep inner bond in me, or deep inner person in me, is in the energy of Aquarius. So the way that I look at deep love and deep bonds is through a universal big picture. I realize that I can actually love everyone. And I used to call everyone my friend, because in my heart, I feel like I have the potential to actually love everyone and to see the friend in everyone. But because it's also in the 5th house, that moon in Aquarius is in the 5th house, right? So I have the energy of the moon, that motherly, deep emotional connection in Aquarius, that wide, spectrum, or that wide perspective of universality of one love, in the 5th house of creation. So for me, what I'm doing right here is 5th house Aquarius moon. This is it. This is my way of expressing my deep inner emotional needs, is by taking what I love to do the most, what brings me joy, pleasure, and excitement, and then using my voice to create, because I also actually have Gemini or Virgo and Mercury as my 1st house. So I'm meant to communicate, right? I have Virgo and Mercury in the 1st house. So the way I show up in the world is through communication and through words. And so this is what 5th house moon looks like. It is my ability to use my words to communicate what brings me joy with the masses of people in a way to stimulate joy and excitement in your life as well. And so it's these different layers that come together to create the natal chart. And that's what we're going to talk about. Our last class, actually, our capstone class, will be reading the natal chart and putting all these layers together. All right, let's go ahead and get our herbs up here that are in association with the 5th house. Oh, the sun. The symbol of the sun is a circle with a dot in the center. That is the symbol of the sun. And so if you're ever using, symbols, you can go ahead and also pay attention to the different symbols of the planets, the signs as well also. All right, so herbs for the 5th house. Now, we're going to talk about quite a few herbs and ones that are really good for children. And then I'm going to go in and talk to you a little bit more about using herbs with children, because that's what the 5th house is really about to me. As a mother of 3 children, I realized that what I have put most of my energy into creating is my home, my family, and my babies. And taking care of them, I actually have a son right now upstairs that's not feeling well. Taking care of them is really the most important thing in my life. It is the thing that brings me the most joy and passion. And so I'm really excited to always talk to people about using herbs with children and healing our babies with plants because it works. And I've had it happen so many times. So we're going to talk about herbs that are general for the 5th house, and then we're going to move over into a conversation about just children and herbs. All right, so we're going to want herbs here that are good for the heart. And for the spine, so for the nervous system as well. So we've already talked about some of those herbs for that. We're going to also want to have herbs that are good for mom, for the womb, and that allow us to actually, womb being a mother's womb, or womb being your whole being, right? Your entire entity. Like, I have a womb that creates, but I also am a womb. I am literally like a physical womb. I also have the ability to create just from my body, that whole being, right? That 5-pointed star. All right, so let's see, where do I want to go first? Well, it seems like I wrote different types of herbs down here. I wrote herbs for creativity. Okay, that's what it is. So the first ones are herbs that are going to help stimulate our creativity, help us tune into that deeper dreamlike world and dreamlike space and mental space to be able to pull out and extract the information or ideas and inspiration to create. Damiana is the first one that I have here. We talked about Damiana in a couple courses. I think we're in the 3rd house, I think. Yeah, for our dream states. But Damiana is an herb that induces dream and deep sleep, and actually stimulates more creative dreams. And as we know, if you are a creator, if you're a creative type of a person, a lot of times what you want to make actually comes in the dream state, or somewhere in between. Actually, let me go ahead and say this, since we're on dreams. The very first, I started wanting to talk to plants. I think it was about 2013 was the first time when I decided that actually a girlfriend came over to my house, and she walked into our upstairs apartment, and she looked out the window and she said, "That is a really nosy tree that you have out there." And I looked at her like, "Did you just say that tree was nosy?" And had already been, communicating with plants and using plants, but I had never thought about plants communicating or being in that human type of a sense, right? Like, she said the plant was nosy, and I'm like, I don't know nosy people, but I don't know nosy plants. And so this interaction, this very short interaction with this girlfriend, stimulated a very deep awareness within me, because I had been connecting with this tree. This tree had been dropping flowers onto the balcony for my children to play with. And a friend actually ended up telling me that those flowers were poisonous, and my children were putting them in their mouths and just experiencing the tree. And so I had already had this awareness of the tree that, I want to know her better. But when my friend came in and said she was nosy, that took me to a whole nother level. And so it was probably a year or two later, I had been asking, I would go up to that tree and actually started talking to all plants and trees, and in my voice saying, "Hello, tree." I would whisper too, because I didn't want to be too loud and let people know I was talking to the tree. But I'd say, "Hi, tree. I really want to talk to you. I really want to hear you talk. I don't know what I'm doing," but I just started opening my heart. I started using my whole self and presenting myself to the tree, to Mother Earth, with a desire to hear and to understand her messages. It was probably about 1.5 to 2 years later, I was in a dream state. We had actually moved town. We had moved to Portland, Oregon. And I had instantly met trees in my new home and in my new environment that I could tell had messages. Matter of fact, the very first Douglas fir I found that was cut down a year later, as soon as I saw her, I could tell she had messages for me. But I just didn't understand how to convert or to decipher the language of plants yet. But I was in a dream state, not with Damiana, but I was in a dream state, just kind of waking up out of the deep sleep. And I remember laying there hearing, actually seeing and hearing this little plant that I was growing in my home screaming. This plant was screaming at the top of her lungs, bloody murder, literally, like, just this crazy, intense scream. And I'm in my dream state, and I'm like, I've been asking to talk to plants, but for some reason in this state, I was thinking, you're tripping. You are seeing a plant screaming in your dreams, and you're tripping, so go back to sleep. So I didn't get up and I didn't listen to that. When I got up a couple hours later, I went straight to the plant, and lo and behold, the plant was covered in mites and was literally being eaten alive. I mean, there wasn't a piece of that plant that was clear from mites. And so the plant was literally screaming energetically. She was literally being eaten alive and was screaming this energy force out into her space. And in my dream state, I was able to decipher and tune into her frequency energy and actually see or materialize the frequency that I was feeling and that I was having experience with. So Damiana is one of those plants that is going to help induce those types of experiences. So if you want to start talking to plants, first off, let them know that you want to talk to them and that you want to hear them, and then maybe try some Damiana to help expand those dreams. Mugwort is another dream plant, and another plant that I would recommend, actually the two of them together, for deeper sleep, more sound sleep, but also for those real dreams, to be able to connect your frequency with frequencies that are not seen, right? That's what the 12th house and Piscean energy is about in Neptune. It's about the unseen energy. And we'll get to the 12th house soon enough. And that's almost like impossible to talk about, because we're talking about the things that are unseen. But plant energy and frequency and vibrations are unseen. I can't see the frequency that this beautiful plant here is literally pulsating out into the world. I can't see it, but I can feel it. And I can actually tune into it and learn to decipher its messages if I'm paying close enough attention. Both of these herbs help induce that and connect us even deeper. Ginkgo Biloba. All right, the next herb that I have on the list is Ginkgo Biloba, a favorite as well. I love Ginkgo Biloba. Beautiful, beautiful tree. If you've not seen the Ginkgo Biloba tree, I recommend checking out fall pictures of the Ginkgo Biloba. They put their leaves turn to the brightest yellow right before they shed. It's just absolutely beautiful tree. Actually, they're probably doing that right about now. Maybe have already actually shed in the last couple weeks up north. But Ginkgo Biloba is a super brain herb. Stimulates, the good energy, serotonin production, the stuff that makes us actually feel good and healthy, and also helps reduce anxiety, depression, just keeps our mind and our mentality balanced. It's a good daily herb. It's also a good base herb to use, especially if you're using an herb for brain health or for nervous system health. All right, so let's see. I think that the rest of them I have here are going to be for children. There are a couple more. I'll go ahead and add ginseng, as we've talked about that herb quite a few times, because it is just that good of an herb, especially for promoting energy and for actually boosting up our energy levels. To be a creative person, you got to have high energy. I shouldn't say you have to, that's not true, but most creative people need to have the energy to be able to actually produce the creation. Is that a universal? It feels universal, but I'm sure there are people who have very low energy and still create. So I'm not going to cause that or stamp that as universal. But ginseng does boost up our energy levels very naturally, and it makes it easier for us to be able to put our energy into creation if that's what we want or we need. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some plants that I love to use for children. And these are just like kind of a very universal, soft, not necessarily soft because some of them are hotter, but universal herbs that can be used for everyone. So we're gonna have lavender again. We have rosemary again, and honestly, these are gonna be the first two that I look to for my children because they're just so mild and yet very potent. Rosemary, again, good for the brain, also good anti-inflammatory, and used together with lavender, very good for like topical issues or any type of inflammation situations that I have. If I have any type of rashes, I'm going to use lavender, rosemary, and probably also frankincense. Again, remember that is the herb frankincense that was taken to baby Jesus, because frankincense is a very mild yet potent herb, and it's something that every single mother should have in her cabinet, should have some frankincense available for you. It's great to use for the babies, but for everyone in the entire family. Let's see, clove. Super duper immunity boosting is clove. Clove is high level known to stimulate the immune system and keep it on alert. It also actually helps strengthen the immune system when it is under attack by providing the minerals and the different essential oils that it has that are able to actually communicate with our cells. One of the primary reasons that plant medicine works, right, and that our entire pharmaceutical industry is based on plant medicine, is that plants are natural communicators. We talked about this multiple times in this class, that plants are natural communicators, and they communicate through natural routes, it's through their physical being, through the chemical structures that they are made from. That's how they actually communicate what they know or what they have or what they are seeing, right? As well as energetic, like I said, this plant is communicating a lot of energy right now that I actually can't see. But when it comes to using plants in our body to heal, and especially essential oils or the essential oils of the plant, because I'm getting ready to do a whole conversation with you about essential oils and using them with children. The reason they're so potent and work so quickly, and the reason that synthetics do not do the same thing that essential oils do, is because of the way that they can communicate with our body. So I like to do this with my fist so people can just see. Let's say this is my cell and this is the plant cell. Let's say this is lavender cell. When the lavender cell hits my cell, there will be a perfect union. There will be a unified synapsis that happens here between the two entities, and there's a natural fit. Each bit fits into the other bit. Each crevice rolls into the next crevice, and it fits naturally. And because of that fit, there is communication that takes place. When it comes to synthetics, so if we have my natural cell here and a synthetic, the synthetic is more like this. It doesn't have the natural ridges and the gives and the takes of its own physical structure to be able to fit into mine. Plus, it also doesn't have any electricity or life-giving properties of it like living plants do. But it comes up against the cell and it might block the cell, right? If this is a pain receptor, it's going to come and block the cell and block the pain. So I don't feel pain anymore. But it didn't actually communicate with the cell. It didn't actually take its energy and influence the energy of the cell or do anything to the cell except for block my awareness that it's there. It can't connect. Essential oils are such small, they're called volatile oils. They're such tiny, itty bitty little particles that they are able to not only connect with the cell, but then actually infuse into the cell membrane and cross into the cell and do healing work actually in the cell by providing minerals, by providing the nutrients that the cell needs, also by reducing inflammation, stimulating growth, stimulating movement, all of those different things. Let me put my ring back on. All right, so let's talk about some of those, so clove is one of those, and especially as the essential oil, very, very, very potent. Frankincense, I have that. Let's see, what other oils do I, let's see. Tea tree, I want to add that as an oil. We've talked about that multiple times. Chaparral is a plant that we use very often in our home for skin issues. I'll tell you a story about chaparral here in a little bit. Mustard seed powder. It's all about, the spicy things of life, right? We talked about mineral-rich plants are going to taste strong, smell strong, or look strong. They're going to have a deep color. Mustard seed is another biblical reference that I learned many years ago, is to have the faith the size of a mustard seed. Actually, I don't know the other side of it, but I know that if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you're doing really good. Because a mustard seed is literally like, you almost can't even see it. It's so tiny. And it grows this huge, powerful, spicy plant that produces more mustard seeds. And so to have the faith the size of a mustard seed aligns us with the power of the mustard seed. It's really a beautiful, actually, the Bible has so much herbal knowledge in it, as well as astrological knowledge. And so I love to, I was actually raised in a non-Christian home. I was raised by an atheist mother. And so I have this other perspective when it comes to the different religions of the world and the ways in which they all interconnect. And so I've always been able to see the Bible as like an herbal remedies book because it talks so much about plants in there. I shouldn't say so much, but there are many references to plants and the power of plants, because the people of the Bible days, of those days of the earth, were using plants every day, all day. They were eating plants, they were growing plants, they were using plants as medicine to heal. And they knew also that the environment was what created those plants and what was influencing the growth of those plants. And so mustard seed is one of those ones that I love to use because I use it with my children all the time. Anytime we're going to be actually making an herbal tea bath today, I use mustard seed to help boost up their immune system, to increase the faith really in their body so that they can heal. So mustard seed, we're going to talk more about that because that's going to go into our recipe. Olive leaf. Olive leaf. Oh my goodness. We also mentioned that already, but this was actually the first tincture that I used with my children. Olive leaf is one of those plants that has been highly researched throughout the world. It is really high in oleic acid, which is one of the acids which, the whole alkaline movement that you should only have alkaline or alkaline high foods. You can only drink alkaline water. That's actually just not true. We have acid in our bodies. We have a ton of acids in our body. Actually, if you think of what amino acids are, that's the actual physical building blocks of proteins that make our life, right? Protein is in everything. A lot of times folks will say, oh, you went vegan or you went vegetarian. Well, where are you getting your protein from? That's one of the most ridiculous questions ever. Where are you getting your protein from? Protein is life. Amino acids build protein, and my body is made of proteins. So protein is life. You don't just get protein from animals. There are more amino acids in animal products. So there is more available protein that is easier to digest. It's more bioavailable than the protein in plants, but protein is life. So oleic acid is something that's really high in olive leaves, and has just been deeply studied about how potent it is in boosting the immune system. So olive leaf is something that I also use for the children. Mushrooms as well. I'm pretty sure we talked about beta-glucan in mushrooms. That is literally like a police that once we intake mushrooms, beta-glucan activates our body. It's kind of like we're intaking, let's see, how can I think of a story for that? We're intaking like robbers who no longer have the energy to rob anything. Mushrooms are like intaking like old school thieves that are like, you know what, I still am a thief, but I can't do it anymore. And we intake that being, right? So the being does not actually have a desire to hurt us any longer or to take from us, but it still has the energetic frequency and imprint of I'm here to cause some trouble. And so our body finds that beta-glucan and goes on alert. It's like we have this police force that's on alert, like, whoa, we got a bunch of old thieves in here trying to mess things up. And that's why I love to use mushrooms. Actually, we're going to talk about a mushroom tincture here that I'm using with the children. It just boosts the immune system, gets the immune system active and looking for issues to take care of, that's really the big issue with our immune systems, right? It's that they're not active, they're not stimulated, they're not actually working to do what they do. We don't have to make our immune system, we don't make our immune system, we're born with it. And we, what do I want to say? Well, plants stimulate it. They get it active and moving and circulating, right? It's stagnancy. An ill immune system is stagnant. It's not actively looking for things to keep the body safe and balanced. So mushrooms is one of the things that keeps it active. Olive leaves actually do as well. Clove does as well. Really all these plants do. All right, I think that's, Clary Sage. I want to go ahead and write Clary Sage here because when it comes to women and fertility in our womb, Clary Sage is a godsend. This plant is going to be highly potent and effective at easing menstrual cramps. I will take Clary Sage and put it just a couple drops directly on my womb during that time of my cycle, and the cramping actually goes away within a few moments. Very effective, especially with a little CBD oil mixed together, just directly here on the tummy. You really have no more cramping. You don't have to apply it regularly because with plant medicine, consistency is what matters. You have to consistently bring this plant goodness into the body because guess what is also consistently happening? The stress, the anxiety, the environmental influences are constantly happening. There's no break that we get from the environment. So we can't break on giving it the good, the healing energy as well. It has to be a consistent thing. Clary Sage, we just talked about motherwort and chase treeberry in section 4 as well. So those would also be a part of this. Spirulina. This is going to go along with the greens and with the kitchen. We talked about spirulina in our green juice class, but this does not have the cellulose cell wall structure around the plant, so it's a more bioavailable, highly mineral-rich sea green, which all of the sea plants are really good for us, especially for our children. And I think that's all we want to add on here for this. Rainbow salad, of course, also can go up here. And then let's talk about some essential oils and herbs that we can use for children. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and erase this here. All right, so children and herbs. The number one thing that I want to recommend to you when it comes to children and their health is prevention. Daily diet and daily activities is really the key to healthy babies. What are the babies eating every day? Are they eating mineral-rich food that keeps their bowels moving well, that keeps their immune system boosted up? Prevention is key. And so when it comes to children, instead of talking about all the medicine and all the herbs we can use, first, let's make sure that daily lifestyle is in alignment with their highest good and their highest possibilities. So prevention is key with everything, but especially with the babies. On top of that, also breathing. I taught my children how to do deep breathing when they were very young because breathing can actually heal the body. Breath of fire is one of my favorite breathing techniques to go to when we have mucus buildup or any type of congestion. I always forget to do it until like day 3 of the congestion or day 4 of the congestion. I'll forget. And then I'll finally remember, oh yeah, breath of fire, do that. You actually know how to get this stuff out of you. And so breath of fire will be an amazing thing to teach your children, or any type of deep breathing to teach your children and empower your children how to naturally oxygenate their bodies. On top of that, also sun, getting time in the sun and spending time directly in the sun, especially in the early sun, is so important for our children. Imagine what it was like to grow up in the tribe life, which is kind of like what I've structured my family around as my own modern day urban tribe. And so when I think about, and actually I learned about this passion and this almost obsession with tribal life started in college for me. I remember reading a book called The Forest People. And if you're interested in how tribal life is for children, I would recommend checking out this book. But it talks about how, you know, the adult tribe members had their own tribe, and they did the cooking and the cleaning and the hunting and the gathering and whatever they had to do. And they did it in their own tribe, on their own time schedule, doing what they had to do to be adults. The children were in their own mini tribe next to the adults. And instead of them partaking with the adults, they would actually just watch the adults and learn from what the adults were doing and copy. So you have children pretending to hunt, and children pretending to build houses, and children pretending to heal each other or nurse each other or carry babies. We see this. This is what our children do. Our children do what we do. They do not do what we say. They do what we do. They are watching us, and they are learning from what we do, and they will mock our behaviors because in their minds, well, that's what the adult is doing. That's what adults do. And that's why, it's so important for us to primarily focus on prevention, right? And to establish those healthy habits for them when they're young, because they're going to do what we do, not what we say. So you could say their whole childhood, you better eat your vegetables. And if you're not doing it yourself, or you're not making that a primary focus of their life, they're not going to listen to you. Maybe until they get older and they figured out themselves that they feel better when they eat it. But prevention is key because it teaches us to create a lifestyle that they can actually, that they can mock and that they can follow physically, right? Okay, sunshine, breathing. So let's get into the individual then. For children, a big issue for our babies is topical skin issues, bug bites, rashes, cuts, bruises. My goodness, the amount of topical things that my children bring to me. Mom, I have this. Mom, I have that. Mom, I have this. Mom, I have that. Topical is a huge, huge way that I use plants on my children daily. Actually, we use only oil or nut butters and oils on our body. We use only plant-based soaps on our top of our skin. We are only using plant-based stuff to wash our hair and our scalp. So topical is a big, big thing when it comes to children. Let's see. Full body massages. And this one, plus the herbal bathing or herbal baths. These two, these are my, what do we want to call it? I don't know where my words are today. It's Mercury Day too. You'd think I would have good words. This is my go-to, man. These are like my most powerful options when it comes to my children. Let me write children up here just so we know specifically that we're speaking of children. Full body massage. Oh, I was going to write massage. And herbal bathing. Matter of fact, one of the first things that I did last night when my son said he wasn't feeling good was went to my essential oils and did a short, I wasn't able to do it too long because we got in late, but did a quick chest massage as well as a back massage. We're going to talk more about that, but well, we'll just say that we're going to go back in deeper into that when I talk about when we make our recipe. And essential oils. Let me just put rainbow salad here because I want to make sure I put rainbow salad on the children's path, because honestly, if you can focus on getting your child to eat a rainbow salad at least one a day, preferably 2 or 3, they will themselves learn how to live more in alignment with plants. They will learn how to enjoy crisp, crunchy, bright flavored foods and almost expect them actually in their meals. So definitely want to make sure I have rainbow salad right here as well. It's always about the rainbow salad, guys. All right, I think that that's all that I have on there. So let's go ahead and get into our recipe. I want to show you how to make an herbal bath and what I do at the first signs of my children not feeling well. All right, guys, so we are going to make what I call body tea. This is a product that I launched, I don't know, about 4 years ago, called Body Tea. And this is inspired from the very first herbal bath that we created some years back when the babies were pretty young. I remember thinking of how amazing would it be to actually sit in a cup of tea and take a bath in there. And then I found an herbal product that had mustard seed and eucalyptus, and that was the beginning of my creation of body tea. So it started with just mustard seed and eucalyptus. Eucalyptus is also another one of those super potent immunity boosting or immunity stimulating herbs. Grows crazy abundant here in the desert. Well, it's actually not supposed to be here, I should say. So I shouldn't say it grows abundantly. It was planted abundantly in the desert. But it all started with this mustard seed eucalyptus bath and me thinking, man, I absolutely love a cup of warm peppermint tea. What if I sat in that? Like, what would it be like to sit in there? So I want to put you in that mentality. Imagine making a hot cup of peppermint tea or a cold brew one, I guess it depends, and then warming it up. And sitting in that mug and sitting in that warm, fragrant, pepperminty type of experience, literally sitting in your cup of tea. Well, that's what we do. We actually make we make baths, or we make tea for the bath. We brew tea in our bathtub. I like to call it body tea, but I'm going to go ahead and use an herbal bath. We're going to call it an herbal bath. And this is brew yourself a bath. Brew yourself a cup of tea for your bath. Humans have been soaking in herbs since the beginning of soaking in herbs. If you can actually find certain traditions where newborn babies were actually placed into herbal baths, because we talked about that skin to skin touch, right? How important it is to take a new baby and put it onto your skin to pick up that bacteria. But actually that bacteria and different properties also exist in the earth, right? Not only do we want our children to pick up the bacteria of our own bodies and of humans, but we also want them to pick up the different bacteria and pathogens and different things from the environment, because that literally boosts their immune system, okay? And a baby does not have, and the immune system is brand new, it has no experience. So it's important as newborns and as young babies that we give our children the opportunity to have their immune system come in contact with as many different types of plants, viruses, pathogens, bacteria as possible, without it being, of course, at risk of killing them, which is definitely a fine line, but follow your intuition, your doctor's advice, and your children to know what is best for them. But it's our job to expose them to as much as we can in those first few years so that they can build up natural immunity and a natural awareness of what's actually happened in their life. Herbal baths is something that many traditions have done with young babies. They'll put the babies into a very small bowl with a bunch of herbs and water and let the baby just sit in there and soak up the goodness of that water. Because as we know, we're drinking tea with purpose, right? We're drinking that peppermint or that ginger tea to absorb the goodness of the plant and the tea and feel actual healing energy from it. Well, that's the same thing with an herbal bath. It's just absorbed through the skin. And the skin is one big pore. It's one big absorbing mechanism that I've heard even that 60% of what touches the skin is actually absorbed in. I don't think that's actually true from just knowing the different layers of skin and what epidermis actually does to block things out. But it is without a doubt that what we put onto our skin is absorbing into our blood flow. And when we put plants onto our skin, or we soak and just sit in the middle of plants and just soak in them, it's magical what happens. So the herbal bath blend that we're going to make today is going to have some of my favorite plants. I'm going to write them up here for you just so you know exactly what I put into this blend, but you literally can put anything into an herbal bath blend. I do recommend highly good smelling, the strong smelling herbs, because you know that those are going to be full of essential oils. Also hot herbs, so mustard seed powder, clove, ginger, any of the hot herbs that actually help raise the body temperature. I also want that in there. And also really dark green herbs, herbs that are really rich in the minerals like nettles and really strong concentrated colors of greens. I also want that in here as well. So this is my list that we're going to make in this, in today's class. Lavender, rosemary, mustard seed, and we're doing mustard seed powder because we want the powder to be released into the water. Linden flower, a plant that is great for anxiety, depression, calming down an anxious mind, boosting up the natural feel-good energy. Stimulation is what linden flower helps with. Oatmeal. Oatmeal is full of saponins. Saponins are natural immunity boosters and actually have internal cleansing and healing properties. But oatmeal is actually a natural soap. I don't know if you know about why they wanted to put you into an oatmeal bath back in the day when you would get chickenpox or something. It's one of the most natural cleansers on the earth. Saponins is what soap comes from. We actually derived soap from saponins. You can make soap from oatmeal and plants like the yucca root that are high in saponins. But oatmeal is so often associated with baths and soap because it is actually a natural cleanser and has soap-like properties in it. So I add the oatmeal because of the natural cleansing properties, the immunity boosting properties, because saponins are not just about cleaning the outside, they're also about cleansing the inside as well. Nettle, like I said, a super rich, nutrient-dense plant. We're going to put valerian because this is going to be a plant that is high in smell, so super mineral rich. This is valerian here, right here. Dark color, you see that dark brown color, but also helps reduce or induces good sleep and rest. So this would be a nighttime blend that I would use on the children before they go to sleep. And I'll actually probably put my son into this very particular blend that we make tonight. Bladderwhack, which is a kelp, a sea plant ground up. And we want to have a few different powders in our herbal blend because it actually changes the viscosity of the water and creates kind of like this muddy-like type water experience, which as an actual bath, you're in there for medicinal purposes, but to be sitting in like this lightly muddy water is just a whole other level of luxury and moisturization for the skin or moisturizing the skin. Bladderwhack is super mineral rich because it is an herb from the ocean, high in magnesium and all the things that we need to have a healthy immune system. So I always make sure that I include either kelp or bladderwhack into all of my bath teas. Chamomile for its soothing properties, as well as we know what we wanted to have a lot of smell good plants. So we have valerian with high level of essential oils, the linden flower, the rosemary, the lavender, the mustard seed, and the chamomile, all really potent smells. And then the last one I'm going to have in here is red clover. Red clover is another one. Boosts immune system, stimulates circulation, really great for the blood, for blood building, an amazing herb for women's health, for the womb, but just a high level, mineral rich, nutrient dense plant that I want to have in here for the long-term soaking in the bath. I do recommend that you sit in your bathtub for at least 30 to 45 minutes. And if you have like a chest issue or you're looking to clear the chest, you want to have the whole body soaking in the water for as long as possible. With my children, I'm literally saying, baby, lay down and get your chest in and coaching them along to make sure their whole body is submerged. Also, make sure you have a glass of water with you during your herbal bath because herbal baths can be actually dehydrating in a sense because you're of the heat. The mustard seed powder and the clove is going to help, I don't have clove in this one, but the mustard seed powder is actually going to help raise the temperature of your body. And that in effect is going to actually dehydrate you. So even though you're sitting in a bottle, in a tub of water, you want to have water near you or be giving your child water to make sure they stay hydrated. And also be really careful when you're getting out of the bathtub because there will be tiny plant particles on the bottom of the tub and oils as well. We're going to be using a tea bag, a cloth tea bag that has a lot of little bitty tiny holes. This is a muslin cotton tea bag. And the powders we want to actually escape out. We want the powders to come out of the bag and into the water. So just be careful when you stand up or with your child to make sure that they don't slip. And also rinse the bathtub out right away after, because sometimes the bladder whack and the mustard can do a little bit of dyeing of the tub. Nothing that's long term, but you want to rinse it out after quickly so that you don't have any issues with keeping it clean. All right, so I have a beautiful blend here of let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 herbs. I don't have the mustard seed in here yet. We have lavender, rosemary, linden flower and leaf. We have oats. We have valerian, chamomile, red clover, and nettle. You see that dark color on the nettle there. Really, really chlorophyll-rich plant. These herbs I'm going to go ahead and toss together with my bladder whack and my mustard seed powder. I actually just kept those in the containers here because I wanted you to see the pretty herbs first. Let's go ahead and add these two in. And there's no particular measurement that you have to stick to when making herbal bath tea. I tend to put the amount of, I tend to put more lavender in, eucalyptus, rosemary, the really strong smelling plants, so that we can have a nice aromatic experience. And then I also make sure that I have enough mustard seed powder to bump up the heat and the intensity of the bath, because that is really what the goal is of this bath, is to create something. Ooh, that smells like the ocean. Ooh, I'm not actually into how sea plants smell, but my goodness, I feel like I'm in California on Ocean Beach right now. Oh, that's so strong. It's crazy. I want to make sure that I have a good amount of mustard seed powder in the blend, as well as my sea kelp or my bladder whack also, because those are really, really potent nutrient-dense herbs, as well as the mustard seed is going to be what helps us push that body temperature up, which is going to break the fever. We're going to get into like a cold sweat once the body temperature has been raised, and start sweating and break the fever, which is always my goal if that's what we have. If the children have a fever, my goal is to break that and let the body start to heal without the importance of having to deal with a fever. And this is a really, really good way of breaking fevers and getting the baby to sleep. So we're going to go ahead and blend up this beautiful herbal bath tea blend here. And then I'm going to tell you exactly what I would do with this and what I would do after it as well. All right, I'm going to put just a little bit more mustard seed in there. I know I want to see a bit more of that because this is going to go into individual bags. And I want to make sure that I have enough of every plant in each bag. The most potent way to make your herbal tea bath is by herbs that you grow yourself. If you are growing lavender and rosemary and these herbs at your home on your own, use those herbs, please. That bath, a fresh herbal tea bath is so different from a dried one. So I highly recommend using fresh herbs if you can with this. Because again, we're making a tea, right? We're not actually using anything that's going to sit over time and create mold. So get as fresh as you can with this. Green tea bags are also a great option for making herbal bath tea. And you could get green tea bags at your local grocery store and just go home and take a bath in green tea. It's very stimulating to the immune system and will improve your health. Plus, it'd be super relaxing. Maybe do peppermint and green tea together. All right, so very simply, I have mixed those herbs together. Now, this is the cotton muslin bag here that I'm talking about. And you can see, maybe you can see, I'm not sure if you can see up close or not, but there's a ton of itty bitty little holes. This is just a piece of almost like a cheesecloth type of material. And so we want to have this so that it's sturdy enough that it will hold up with the herbs in the water. This is cotton, not like one of our paper tea bags, but we also want to make sure that it can breathe, that the herbs can actually seep out. So those little holes are really important. These are also super reusable. You can use these to make your regular tea in as well. You can wash this and keep using them over and over. So just in a general sense, in terms of sustainability and less trash or waste, or the less use of paper products, these reusable tea bags are great for that. All right, so I'm just loading it up. I don't want to make it too tight or put too many herbs in there. because then the bag will actually struggle to let the water absorb and for the plant material to come out. So I have that probably about 3/4 of the way full. Sometimes I'll fill them up more. I used to fill them up more because I want to get as much plant material in each bag as possible. But I've come to learn that it struggles to absorb the water and release the plants. So now I'm just doing 3/4 full in all of my herbal tea bags. But there's one right there. I'm going to go ahead and fill up the other 2 here because I'm going to be using these today. And it seems like such a simple thing, you know, taking a bath with tea bags. Like, seems so simple, but I promise you this will be one of your primary go-tos when it comes to healing, especially your children. Because first off, children love baths, so they're excited to take the bath. You know, my baby's like, oh, I don't feel good. Can I take a bath? They're like trying to get me to make them an herbal tea bath. And that's amazing, right? Like, it gives you a break. The baby doesn't feel good. The child doesn't feel good. You've probably been dealing with their illness for a while now or for a few hours. You're probably tired. You probably need a break. Put the child in the bath. Obviously the right age, okay? If the baby is too small and is not taking baths by themselves, I'm not talking about those babies. I'm using the word baby kind of loosely as my babies, but older children, we want to sit them in the bath with a couple of tea bags, let them know, and I've taught my children how to use these tea bags. So this bag goes into the water, and the first thing you want to do is actually start to squeeze the bag and let the water come in and start to squeeze the herbs, because that will actually help to reduce or to move the plant product and material out of the bag. So we get into the bath and we get it wet and we start to squeeze it. And I let them know, squeeze the bag, squeeze the bag. So they're in there for the first few minutes, squeezing the bag, letting the powder especially escape into the water. And then what I do is I take this bag, and it's an amazing exfoliant after the bath, actually. And if this isn't necessarily a healing bath, if this is just a therapeutic bath, then you can take this bag here and use it as a scrub on your skin. The herbs inside act as a natural exfoliant, the actual roughness of the herbs plus the bags, and then you're literally applying essential oils directly onto your skin. So as an adult herbal bath, I would stick with like the high level essential oils and use this as an exfoliant as well after. All right, one more bag, and then we'll talk about what I would do after they got out of the bath. And I always tie just not a knot in these, because these are reusable. So you want to make sure that you tie a bow or something that you can easily take it out. All right, so these are my Teabag Baths, and what potent medicine they are. I'm telling you, what did we just talk about? The faith the size of a mustard seed, the power in the size, the power in a tiny tea bag. I don't know if that's a good relation, but it'll blow your mind what this little tea bag, and really I usually use 2 in per bath because the bathtub is big, what it can actually do. My family, when we, let me move this out of the way. It was beginning of February of 2020 that a really weird bug came through our home, something that we had never had before. It hit all 5 of us. We were all down total a month over all 5 of us, which kind of never happens. If a bug goes through all of us, it might take us 2 weeks for it to go through all 5 of us. And Dad almost never ever gets the bugs that we get. And so it was a very odd bug. We had just gotten back in town from Christmas travels, and I can remember the very first time I felt it. It was in my throat, and my intuition said, you have some virus in your body that you've never had before. It's going to be really heavy. And my mind actually told me that it was a non-natural virus as well, that there was something digital to it actually. I'm just going to go ahead and say that in public finally. I've only told friends this before, but this is what my intuition told me. And the next day I was bedridden for, I think I was down for 4 days, and then it moved through all of us. Like I said, over the course of a month before we actually felt better. I was in bed for about 4 days, and I can remember by like the second day laying in bed thinking, oh, this is why people go to the hospital. I see. I never really thought I didn't get why people went to the hospital before, but I got it then. And we had COVID, and the only thing that worked for my children was herbal baths and then a full body massage after. So I have a lineup here of some of my most favorite essential oils. Essential oils are plant extractions, okay? So actually through the distillation process, if we put plants into boiling water and allow that water to distill, that water, that is that steam that comes up, will actually separate out the water as from the essential oil. And through the distillation process, we'll actually show you this. We got to show you this lab before we wrap up. We're not going to do any lab work in this class, but we will show you this lab before we wrap up the class. Through this process, it actually separates the water and the oil and allows you to just harvest the oil from the plants. That oil is bottled and it takes a ton of plant material to make very small amount of oil. So the quality of the essential oil that you use means so much. And I have been using essential oils now for close to a decade, and I have only used one company, and that is called doTERRA. There are other companies in the world and on the market that you might love and that you can use, but I only use doTERRA because I have tried other oils. They did not do the same thing that doTERRA oils do. And at the end of the day, I don't really care where I get the stuff from. I'm just looking for stuff that works, okay? I want them to work. And so I'm going to highly recommend using doTERRA oils here. I can get you set up with doTERRA oils with a representative that can help you order them. You can get them online now. There's probably 75 people in your town right now that are selling doTERRA oils. So I really recommend tuning into that group. It seems like it's all about the money. It's a multi-level marketing organization, but I promise you from my heart, this is the best quality plant medicine that you can get in a bottle from my experience. So all of these are doTERRA, and these are my favorite ones here. Clove is going to be the first oil that I go to when we have runny nose, sore throat, fever. I'm going to, along with the other things that I do, but I'm going to be putting a drop of clove or two directly on their back, or when they're smaller, on the bottoms of their feet. Essential oils are very concentrated and powerful, so we have to make sure we don't get them in our eyes. And with children, you know, if you put an oil somewhere close on their body where they can touch it, it's gonna go right in the eye next, and they're gonna be burning from an eye plus having a fever like it's too much, okay? So when they're little bitty babies, you take essential oils and you actually put them on the bottom of their foot. The foot has huge pores, and it's the body. So once we get it onto the foot, it will move throughout the whole body. Clove, I'm taking a drop of it right away and putting it onto their body, one or two of them, and then I'm going to continue to apply that over every couple of hours, a drop or two of clove on their body, period. That's going to be a step. Frankincense, my goodness, here it is right here, y'all. You see the gold. This is it. Every single family should have a bottle of frankincense in their medicine cabinet. This is medicine, and one of the most potent ones I have in the house. Again, great for any type of brain situation. So this stops a seizure within minutes or even seconds. This is also a very high anti-cancer plant. And I tend to not use the C word, the cancer word, too much because I'm not here to go against big pharmaceuticals. And when people get cancer, life gets serious. And you know, standard treatment tends to be where we go. So I'm not here to fight that. If you did want to talk to me about herbs for cancer, I can share that with you. But this is one of them. Frankincense is an anti-tumor, anti-cancer oil and plant. It will reduce the size of cancer and tumors and actually even get rid of them. I've had sunspots on my body go away from just adding a few drops of frankincense over the week. And so many other things. Also amazing for immune boosting, good for the chest, really the whole entire body. It is not a cheap oil. You're going to spend about $70 minimum on a high quality therapeutic grade essential oil of frankincense, but you only need one drop. And there's 250 drops in this one bottle. So yeah, you spent 70 bucks on it, but it might last you 6 months. And it is the most potent medicine that you have. You will be happy that you have it in your home. Rosemary, we talked about rosemary. There's the essential oil for just that. Eucalyptus as well, like I said, a super potent immunity boosting plant. It stimulates the immune system like beta-glucan does and keeps it active and moving. Also a very highly studied plant too. So if you like the scientific studies, I recommend going to PubMed and just tuning into the like thousands of studies that people are doing on plants because they're out there. I'm not just making this up, I promise you. Peppermint is definitely one that we want to have always, a super cooling plant. I will say there's no better breath freshener than peppermint. My children love to take a drop of it. It's going to be great for actually headaches. It helps reduce the pressure of headaches. What else do we use peppermint for? Everything, cooking, flavoring, it's amazing. Also really great with for allergies, actually. Lavender, peppermint, and lemon together actually used in your mouth will help decrease inflammation in the nose and help reduce or let the swelling go and release the mucus. Tea tree oil, we already talked about that. This is going to be what I use for, any type of eye issues. As a matter of fact, my eldest last week said, "Oh, Mom, my eye is itching." I put some tea tree oil in a carrier oil, so about maybe let's say 3 drops of tea tree into one, let's say half of a teaspoon of coconut oil. And I used that and rubbed that around her eye. Yeah, it was like a couple minutes, maybe a couple hours. She's like, "Oh yeah, my eye doesn't hurt anymore." We didn't have to do it again. Tea tree will kill anything that's trying to grow. So ear infections, I put it there. Sinus infections, I'm placing lavender and tea tree directly on the nose consistently over and over to help reduce the inflammation and get that mucus flowing out of our body. And then lavender, that's the last one there. If you don't have a bottle of lavender, I'm sorry. I don't know how you deal with bug bites and rashes and all the skin issues. I don't know how you deal with it because I have them so often. If I didn't have lavender in my house, I would literally go crazy. Like when my children get a bug bite, I can't deal with it. Just go find the lavender because they'll talk about it for days. Helichrysum is from the curry plant. This is a plant very similar to rosemary, but the leaves actually smell like the curry seasoning blend. It is an edible plant. You can use it to fragrance or to season your food. But Helichrysum, man, this one right here, oh my goodness, master healer and master internal healer. You can use Helichrysum on bruised bones, on bruised muscles, on tendon issues. I've had issues with carpal tunnel from the days of working the juice cart, doing the repetitive motion. Helichrysum, 1 drop on the pain, the tendon or the ligament that is in pain, gone, no more pain. Remember the very first story I heard of Helichrysum was a woman whose son's ACL, torn his ACL. And she used Helichrysum multiple times every day on that boy's body. And he went back to the doctor the next time. The doctor was like, what are you doing? How is this possible? ACLs take months to heal, and you guys have healed it in a matter of a few weeks. So Helichrysum is one that I haven't used for like torn ACLs yet, so I haven't had the real big healing opportunities yet with it. But for sore muscles after working out, or the children, riding skaters and scooters and skateboards, hurting themselves. We actually just had my eldest son last night had to put some on his foot from his skateboard class. So this is my lineup of essential oils that I want to share with you all. A couple more tinctures and things that I want to make sure that you know about as well. Like I said, mushrooms. Mushroom tincture is really, really potent. It's going to be mushrooms that have sat in a high proof alcohol for an extended amount of time and have had all that beta glucan and those minerals and vitamins extracted out into the alcohol. We're actually going to be making an alcohol tincture in the next class as well, so we'll talk a little bit more about that then. But this is a mushroom blend of multiple. This has cordyceps, reishi, maitake, lion's mane, chaga, and mesima, which I've actually never heard of mesima. And then royal sun as well. So this is a combination. This is Stamets 7 extract, but Stamets is a very well-known mushroom brand made from a guy who is like a mushroom king of the world. I use this as well as a couple other ones that they use directly into my children's mouth. First signs of cold, fever, cough, all of those things. This is an alcohol-based tincture, and yes, I do give my children a drop full of an alcohol-based tincture. I know that for some people that sounds absolutely crazy and they can't believe that I would do that, but when I see it healing my children, and I've watched so many other women heal their children with alcohol-based tinctures, and I also know the actual reality of alcohol and how alcohol is actually made and how significant it is to survival on Earth, right? This is one of the 3 immortal aspects of life. We need alcohol on our Earth. We can't get away from it. It is cleansing. I allow it to be a part of my healing protocol. So full body massage. I'm gonna put my babies in the bathtub. I'm gonna let them soak for as long as I can in that water. We're gonna get out of the bathtub, dry them off, get them dressed, and then I'm gonna lay them down. And I'm going to take at least 5, depending on what the issue is, right? Like I'm definitely going to use frankincense, rosemary, tea tree, and lavender and clove in every one of my full body massages. Probably eucalyptus as well, and peppermint if like they're running a fever, that's going to be a part of it too. But I might, depending on what oils I have or what the situation is, I'm going to come, give or take certain oils. But in a carrier oil, I would say, let's say we had 1 tablespoon of a carrier oil like olive oil or coconut oil. I would do 10 drops of oil into 1 tablespoon of carrier oil. I'm going to take that tablespoon plus 10 drops and I'm going to massage each part of their body individually. I'm going to start with the front of the chest and do a large circular-like massage with the oils. Circular because I'm looking to stimulate and move the oxygen and move the blood, right? Because oxygenation is going to help improve that immune response and get it actually working and active. I'm going to go to their back, do that on the back. I'm going to do that on both arms. I'm going to do that on both sides of the neck, both legs, and even the feet, also the face. After that, they always fall asleep and wake up the next day or the next time I have to do the same routine. If it was like when we were really sick, I actually had to do this every couple of hours during this COVID thing that we had. It works. It's the only thing that breaks the fever, that actually makes them feel better instantly, and is the quickest way to get my babies feeling better fast. So that is the 5th house. I know this is a lot of information in this one because I have such a passion with healing children with plants. And this is going to be more of a conversation that we'll tune into community and talking more about. If you have children, please come to me and at least ask me for ways in which that I can help or things that I know that have helped with my babies in the past before you try other things, or at least just come and talk to me because I got some remedies. All right, guys, so we will meet back in the next class. We're going to be in the 6th house. We're making our first alcohol tincture, and let's get on the second half of the zodiac house. So I'll see y'all soon. Peace.